So Shanti, today you talked about Asmita, which is defined as consciousness with the reflection of consciousness. Can you explain a little bit more about that for us?
Yes. In the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, in this book, page 144, I have explained what Asmita is. Asmita means ego, or ego that is impure ego. Okay. Pure consciousness is always there. Supreme consciousness is everywhere. So in this chart, Supreme consciousness, Brahman or Self, is everywhere. All the living creatures have Supreme consciousness. All the human beings have Supreme consciousness. Consciousness is necessary for mind to function, for speech, for seeing, for hearing. Everything consciousness is necessary. If you have senses and you have mind, you have no consciousness, you cannot experience it. If you have your eyes open, but your mind is somewhere else, with your eyes open you don't see. Your eyes are open, your mind is there, but consciousness is not there. That means you are asleep or you are in coma, you cannot experience it. So consciousness is universal, it is everywhere. It's just like a space is everywhere. It is in the house, it is there. In the part, it is there. Inside body, it is there. Outside body, there is no space. There is no place where there is no space. Space is everywhere. So consciousness is like that. But to express consciousness, when we use intellect, we have faculties of supreme consciousness, and we have intellect that judges. When intellect and consciousness combines, then consciousness identifies with its reflection, and that is called false ego or asmita. So intellect and consciousness combined together identifies with the body, it is also false ego. When it identifies with seeing, hearing, tasting, touching or smelling, is also false ego. When it identifies with mind, it is false ego. When it identifies with emotions, it is false ego. When it identifies with our possession, it is false ego. When it identifies with imaginary belonging, also false ego. So false ego is identifying with the reflection. Identifying with reflection is like a moon is shining and its reflection is in the bucket. You can have 100 buckets with 100 moons reflecting, but when the water is emptied, moon disappears. So ego is impermanent. False ego is impermanent. It is illusion of I am. And this is why real consciousness is a real thing, like a real moon. Others are reflection. So asmita is false identity. And because of false identity, we suffer. We are not the body. But when we identify ourselves with the body, we suffer a lot. When we identify with our possessions, we suffer a lot. We identify with our friends or relatives, we suffer a lot. When we identify with our mind or our beliefs, we suffer a lot. But if you don't identify yourself with anything but supreme consciousness, you won't identify with body, it won't matter. You are heavy or thin. People honor you or insult you, it won't matter because you don't identify with your mind or your emotions. So the ego gets us in trouble because of wrong identity. The wrong identity gets us in that trouble. But animals don't have intellect. They don't identify like we do. Only identification they have is only for survival and because of instinct. We have identity, much more identity. See, they are not conscious of their body. They are not aware they are naked. They are not aware food they should eat not. But we are aware of all these things, what others will think because of our intellect. So our intellect, which is an asset, which is a positive thing for us if we use properly. But if we don't use properly, we get into problems. So animals are blissful. They have bliss of ignorance because they don't use intellect. They use only mind. And they think of only of what is in front of them. They don't worry about the future because without intellect, you don't worry about the future. With intellect, you can imagine lots of problems coming up. Animals don't visualize problem. They react whenever and whatever necessary. We create many problems. We get into illusions and delusion because of intellect. So intellect, if it's taken out of consciousness, then is only one consciousness. There won't be thought that I am or you are. There is no thought of good or evil, pleasure or pain, security or insecurity. All this disappear. So this is the purpose of meditation, to experience supreme consciousness, which is not a false ego, not identified with anything that is not true self. Okay.
Good, thank you, sir.